So I would like to welcome you to the 5,532nd meeting of the Rotary Club of Chicago. Rotary One is now in session. So as I mentioned a few minutes ago, I would like to change the order of our program a little bit today to accommodate the assessor. We're going to put the speakers program at the top and go right into the program. Again, a reminder, if you have questions for the assessor, to please put them into the chat box and we will share them that way to keep things organized. Otherwise, please do keep yourself on mute so that we can listen to everything that the assessor has to tell us today. Don, just real quick before I introduce you, Scott did just send me a note that the assessor might have a few more minutes to go, just a little bit past 12:30. So if the Q&A runs a little bit late, I think we can accommodate that. And so with that, I want to introduce everybody in the Zoomosphere here to former president of the Rotary Club of Chicago, co-chair of our programs committee, and just generally immigration attorney extraordinaire, Mr. Don Gardner. Don, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Eric, and welcome to everybody here at the meeting. Coming to you from the Garner Man Cave, and wanted to again thank Fritz for coming to speak today. We initially met via LinkedIn, and I suggested that he come and speak to our club, and he very quickly accepted. As you will come to learn, Fritz is familiar with the Rotary Club, having traveled to over 40 countries with his previous job, and seeing Rotary clubs and speaking at Rotary clubs everywhere from Washington to Japan. So with that being said, I'm not one to read off a biography. You do have the biography there in the gyrator, and I'm sure Fritz will talk a bit more about why he got into politics, some of the things that he expected, some of the things that he's been surprised with while he has been in office. I just wanted to bring out a few tidbits that I thought were neat. So the first one is just basically his name, Fritz. In reality, his name is Frederick, and he was named for the Prussian Frederick the Great, but his Swiss grandfather, I believe, quickly hijacked that name and labeled him Fritz. So that name stuck. He is a very devoted White Sox fan and is trying to convince all of his children, his 3 children, to also become Sox fans, but of course it's been tough with the Cubs' success of late. One of the things on his bucket list that would perhaps surprise you is that he has never caught a baseball in the stands. And so that would be something that he would like to scratch off his bucket list sometime soon. And as many Rotarians know how important family is, when asked what the one thing that he cannot live without, he immediately mentions his family. And with that, I would like to pass it over to Fritz to talk about life as Cook County Assessor. Fritz?
Well, thanks, Don, and thanks, Eric. Don, I really appreciate the invitation, and Eric, thanks for running the meeting today. Thanks, everyone, for being on the call. As I was telling Eric and Don when I joined the call, is that I have had a chance to see Rotary clubs and Rotarians in action. After I finished college, I was on a fellowship that was not a Rotary fellowship, but I met others who were traveling in the former Soviet Union, the Baltic states, in China, on Rotary fellowships, and I thought that was really neat. I didn't understand that about Rotary. And then in my work, as I mentioned, I traveled around the world investing in small companies, and I just I always relish the chance to come visit club meetings, whether it be in small towns. Like I mentioned, I went to one in Longview, Washington, which is a logging community, to Japan, to get a sense for what things are actually like on the ground, and meet people who are doing things in the community, who have a sense of what's going on, and a sense of service and giving to others. And that is a value that spreads around the world. And the thing that's really cool, as a Chicago native who grew up in Hyde Park, is this came from here. These are things that sort of sprang up from the Midwest and went around the world, and it's such a wonderful representation of American culture, American values, but also Midwestern and Chicago values. And I think it's really neat. So when Don gave me the invitation, I wanted to grab the chance for it. Now, I don't want to go into the gory details of what the assessor's office does. I think a lot of people have a sense that it relates to property taxes, but it's very complex and hard to understand. And in some of its minutiae, it's true, and we do relate to property taxes. But the thing you should know, and I think this will speak to all of you and the values that bring Rotarians together, is that we're the office that is about fairness and equity in our property tax system. That is the job that is given to us. It has not always been done very well. But what it does is in the way that our system works in Illinois is the amount of property tax that has to be collected is determined in advance, and the assessments don't change the amount of total property tax that's collected. It's about $15 billion in Cook County. A little bit over half of it is in the city of Chicago. But then how do we divide up the pain from collecting the property taxes? The way we're supposed to divide it up is based on the value of our properties. And it's our job at the office to fairly and accurately do that, so that we determine each person's share of that $15 billion that has to be paid. And the key to doing this well is to be fair to everyone concerned, to be accurate in estimating the value of the property, to build trust in this system, because the more trust is destroyed in the system, the more it falls down, and the system can get skewed by people trying to work for a favorable outcome, which comes at the expense of others. And when this is done well, everyone wins, because there's less frustration, there's more trust in the system, there's less financial cost to people trying to work for a better outcome to their benefit at the expense of others. And so that's what our office is. And I hope you can see how that relates to the four-way test that Rotarians have. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? And will it be beneficial to all concerned? Now, in reforming our office, we use similar tests. Is it the truth? Is our assessment accurate? And are we being accurate to everyone? Is it fair? That's a barometer too, because if someone is getting favorable treatment, it comes at everyone else's expense. Now, if you read the news, you might not think being the Cook County Assessor is a way to build goodwill or better friendships, but I've met with many groups like this, and I find everyone has a common ground in creating a more equitable environment for both residential and commercial property owners, and that is beneficial for all concerned, because then it helps our reputation, it helps to attract investment here, and everyone's only paying their fair share, and we don't put more of the burden on others. When that happens, when you have favoritism, it's usually the most disadvantaged and the least powerful who get the short end of the stick. And by the way, this is what drew me to this office too. So I mentioned, Don mentioned in the introduction that I traveled to 40 countries in my job. My job was to value things around the world. I would look at different companies. I look at paint companies in Japan, or fixture manufacturers in India or Finland. And I would use the financial skills that I learned in business school and the chartered financial analyst program to value these things and bring everything together. And that was good. That was an interesting job, well paid. I love the people I worked with. It was intellectually interesting and exciting. But I wanted to have a bigger impact on the world that I have with my gifts. And I just knew that our assessment system was based on being the office about equity and fairness and trust, and that it would be I felt better about using my background and my skills for this mission that could help the more than 5 million people who live in Cook County, instead of the maybe tens of thousands of investors we had with our fund. And it's been a terrific process where we've been in office a little bit less than 2 years. It has been, I've gotten back in enjoyment and satisfaction from stewardship over this system many times, the effort that I put in, and it's been wonderful. And one of the reasons why is I get to tell groups like you about what we're doing. So let me just tell you a little bit about what we've done. So we brought in better people, technology, and processes. We really worked hard to get, and it's a great group of different kinds of people. We brought in data scientists, we brought in experts in property tax law, which is a very specialized field. We brought in people who'd been government reformers who'd reformed other organizations. We brought in financial specialists and appraisers. And it's been wonderful to assemble a group with such different skills together for this mission. And we're all bound together by this mission. And it's been terrific. And we think it's making a difference. We brought in great technology. We created a call center, created a new website, created online appeals and exemptions. Boy, if we didn't have that in place by the beginning of this year, we would have been in trouble with COVID. We can use many other kinds of technology these benefits are still coming into place with mapping, so we can get better characteristics and better get the lay of the land that we have in Cook County to make sure that we're not letting things slip through the cracks so that everyone's treated fairly. We put in ethical reforms to eliminate even the suspicion that favoritism or there's some way to get a favorable outcome, and we did that through putting in new rules, putting our models online, so that everyone can see them, how they work, verify them, and test for biases. We put into rules for, so I don't take campaign contributions from lawyers or appraisers who practice before the office because we don't think that sets the right tone, and others. So these are some of the great ways that we've really been able to move things forward, and it's making a difference. We've assessed the northern suburbs of Chicago last year. We righted a lot of problems there that made the system more fair. We brought into place a piece of legislation that I'll tell you about in a little bit that made hundreds of thousands of people better off. We are doing video outreach through Facebook, processing applications remotely, all these things we've been able to do even under conditions of COVID, so that's been great. On the policy side, we had a big accomplishment where we worked with legislators and House and Senate leadership and Governor Pritzker to pass a law that makes the senior homeowner exemption renew automatically. Now, I always thought it was crazy that you had to recertify every year that you were still over 65, but you did. And my father was one of the tens of thousands of people who would forget to file a senior exemption and be made the worse off for it and have to worry about paperwork. And we're not getting any younger, and so we made all the stakeholders down in Springfield comfortable that we can actually keep track of people's age and make sure that people don't move and that you're not inappropriately claiming this exemption. And so the hundreds of thousands of people who do get the exemption now don't have to file this paperwork or, God forbid, come into our office to do it. Many people had to do that before, and can you imagine what kind of risk our seniors would be coming into an office to file this paperwork? So we're really glad that was in place. It removed a burden for many, these are often the folks who are least able to afford the added expense if they miss their exemption. This made government a little bit easier to navigate and access, and that's what fairness and equity look like for the average person. We have been working on another important piece of legislation. We pushed for a renewed passage of the data modernization bill in the Senate. Because this bill, what it would do is it would require larger commercial properties to remit to us basic information about the rents and expenses of their buildings, as is done in most of the rest of the United States. And this helps us make sure that we don't have any data gaps in valuing the big commercial buildings, which in many cases have tended to get advantaged assessments because we didn't have good data about them before. But also smaller businesses were disadvantaged because to the extent that we had data, it was about the big ones rather than the small ones, and they were probably hurt by us reading across from that. So in 2019, we got the data modernization passed by a bipartisan supermajority in the Senate. And we had the sponsors and the votes to pass it in the House, but we never got our vote in the House. It was never called to the floor. We will be bringing it back this coming year because I think more than ever, people are recognizing that with all the inequities that are around us in so many different parts of life, we don't want to have a property tax system that builds in further disparities because we have gaps in data about something as important as commercial property. And so we will keep on working on that. It'll give us better data to make the system more fair. On the transparency side, as I mentioned, we've been dedicated to fairer, more accurate assessments driven by market data, and we don't have an end result in mind that favors one property type over another. And of course, I think you would recognize the value in not coming in with that kind of attitude. We promise to correct the mistakes of the past, which have led to regressive outcomes and overwhelmingly fell on those least able to afford it. And so what we do is we report extensively to the public from our office and also third-party reporting and sales ratio studies by outside parties who are experts. They all show that many, though not all, commercial properties were underassessed in the past, especially the biggest ones. And we are fixing that. We have the data that is allowing us to fix that, but we're trying to push for even better data for the data modernization bill. But the key thing for us is that we show our work, show our sources, show how we get to our numbers, lay out all the key drivers that go into our assessments. That not only makes our assessments more accurate, it makes it more predictable for others, builds confidence that we're not hiding the ball. And all of the data and models that we use go on GitLab, which is an open source platform that anyone can see how we're coming up with our numbers. I'd just like to close that people think with this one thought. You know, people think because I'm an assessor, I like property taxes. I don't. And here's why. You know, the way we do property taxes in America is really a relic that's thousands of years old. It dates back to the Domesday Book, right after the Norman conquest of England and biblical times. And that might have been okay in a time when wealth in the economy was driven by bricks and mortar. But I think we know that we've seen an acceleration of trends where more and more of the economy is not captured in our bricks and mortar economy, the buildings that we have. And yet the bricks and mortar economy has to pay this property tax that supports all of the needs of our education and municipal system, especially education. It generates great disparities when you have a community that has little property wealth, but it has to support an education system so that we educate our children. What that results in is that folks who live in those communities that don't have much property value to speak of, they have to pay much higher rates than you might pay if you live in another community where there is more property value. And that creates immense disparities. That makes it hard to build wealth. In some parts of Cook County area, you'll pay rates that are 4 or 5 times the rate in Chicago. How can you build wealth in an environment where property taxes are, that rate differential is higher than the annual appreciation you could expect in your house? The way we fix this is people think it's very complex, but it's not. And that is more federal support for education spending. The federal government is the governmental body that's in a position to have a view of the whole economy, not just this narrow bricks and mortar economy, but all the things that happen in technology and in services and other parts of our economy that are international in nature. It's the federal government that's really in a better position to help fund disparities in the ability to pay for education. This was part of the civil rights movement. It opened a crack in the 1960s, but we've really regressed since then. And it's a long time overdue. I think with COVID having laid bare the disparities in our society and having turbocharged the movement away from a bricks and mortar economy to one where more and more is being done online, it's time for the federal government to pick up more of the tab for paying for our schools, because it's just going to become more and more of a burden on people staying in their homes, people staying in their communities. Folks like you are the backbone of our community. You shouldn't have to feel the pressure of rising property taxes just to stay in the place where you are when you do so much for the people around you. I talk to people who go to churches on the south side and west side, to leaders of their congregations, and they see people being driven out because not only has the assessment system been unfair, but even if we fix the assessment system, the property tax burden will still be high. We should find, and if we just could double or triple the amount of Title I funding that the federal government makes for schools, and this is not a huge number. This is, we currently spend about 15 billion. If we raised it to 50, we could see property tax rates fall by a third or more in some communities. And so I've been making a big push on this. I wrote an op-ed in the Tribune in March. I'll continue to write about it. So I just wanted to close with that thought. These are not complex, unsolvable problems. We can solve disparities, reduce the reliance on property taxes, and also reduce the forces that cause segregation in our society by having the federal government pick up more of the tab for schools. It's a doable number. We can do this. I just wanted to close with you with that message, because I know you can see the benefits that we'll have on all the people around us that we care about, and the viability of our communities, viability of organizations like yours that depend on people staying in place for a long time and serving their neighbors and others around them and caring about their communities. So with that, I've gone on a little long, but let's leave some time for Q&A.
Thank you very much, Fritz. That was a fantastic presentation, and I think very insightful and very educational. And thank you for intertwining it into the Rotary ethics as well. Now, we do have several questions in the chat box, but Don, I didn't know if you had a question that you wanted to sort of kick off the discussion with before I go to the chat box.
Well, it's fine. Just go to the chat box, Eric.
All right, I will do that. So let's start with this one. One of our participants here today says, my husband and I own a rental property in Chicago, but don't really understand the process that allows assessment values to be contested for a later legal action that provides an after-the-fact true-up. Can you explain that?
Sure. So if you buy rental property in Cook County, it's subject to property tax, but it's also subject to an assessment. And so we have multiple different venues for, the process starts at our office. We estimate the value of your rental property. And how would we do that? We look at what rent would typically be for a building like yours. We estimate the expenses that you have. And then we look at what you probably know is the cap rate. So this is a multiplier. If a building makes $1 million in operating income in the year, the market will value that at a certain level. If the market values it at $10 million, then 10 divided by 1, that's 10%. So that is a cap. That's a cap rate, and we try to follow the market on how apartment values are valued. But if there might be a difference, maybe your expenses are a lot higher for the kind of building you have, or maybe the rent is much lower than the market for the kind of building you have because you don't have an elevator, or there's no AC, or there's really loud sounds, or there can all sorts of things that cause your property to have different conditions than average that a buyer would take into account if they were buying your building. So that's where we start. And so if we did that wrong, you can appeal at our office. You do not have to hire a lawyer to do that. And we give you an opportunity to submit information about your building in advance of the assessment process so we can take into account those unique conditions that face you. And that's through the Real Property Income and Expense Form, RPIE. You can find it if you go to CookCountyAssessor.com and look off to the right. There's a section for commercial property owners, and there's a section for RPIE. If you still don't agree after you've appealed with us, you can appeal to several other bodies. You can go to the circuit court. You can go to the Illinois Property Tax Appeals Board. You can go to the Cook County Board of Review. There are all venues there to make sure that you get a just outcome in whether we've estimated the value of your property. And what you can do is just see when we send you an assessment notice, what market value did we assume, and you can probably tell if we're off or not.
Thank you very much, Fritz. Wow, we have a lot of questions coming in, but we probably only have time for one or two more here. Here's an interesting one. Our member, Evan Freund, asks, what projected effect will enactment of the fair tax have on reliance on property taxes in future years?
Well, this is a good question. If the fair tax is enacted, and if the statutory changes in rates, so if the fair tax amendment is enacted, what it does is it gives the state another tool to raise revenue that could then be given to school districts. And every dollar that comes into a school district is one less dollar that needs to be levied in property taxes. So, for example, we have $15 billion of property taxes in Cook County. If the state is sharing $1 billion more with school districts in the state, that in principle could lead to $1 billion less in the levy. Rates in Illinois are not fixed, so that really it can be an automatic relationship because property taxes are a plug for all these school districts. They come up with their budget, and their revenues are all the different sources that they have. Then they look at their expenses, and wherever difference is left between expenses and revenues before property taxes, that becomes their levy. So if the state is able to raise more money through the fair tax amendment, through income taxes, then that can reduce property taxes. And the reason why property taxes are so high in Illinois is that we are dead last in the United States in Illinois for the state sharing revenues with school districts. Number 50 in the United States. So about 25% of our school district budget comes from the state. Over the border in Indiana, it's closer to 50. The national average is closer to 50. And I think we can all agree, especially after we've seen COVID, that it's probably a more efficient way to raise revenue through income taxes when you tax people who are still employed, and you can tax all sorts of activities that don't have a brick and mortar presence, but are an important part of the economy, rather than just having it fall on the person who owns brick and mortar, who might have lost their job, but the property tax doesn't care. I think that's a better system, but it's no guarantee. We know our state is in a parlous fiscal state, and if they are raising more money through the progressive income tax, it doesn't necessarily flow through to the schools. I see it as sort of a necessary but not sufficient condition to right the ship on property tax levies. And I've got time for a couple more questions.
Well, thank you very much, Fritz. Actually, I think on our end we may have to.
I went on too long.
We have to move on just because we have a really full program.
Okay.
And yeah, the questions sort of kept coming in, but I did see that that Scott did put some great links into the chat box that may answer some of folks' questions, particularly on the procedural side of things, because some of the questions were more sort of procedural in nature. But I do want everybody here to give a big virtual round of applause for Fritz and the great work that he's doing in the assessor's office as an engineer and a numbers guy. Myself, I appreciate everything that you said about the ways that you're improving the system.
Well, thanks, Eric and Dan. I really appreciate it.
And before you go, I do want to present you a gift from the Rotary Club of Chicago. There's a picture up on the screen, and then I've got one next to me right here. It is a candle, and basically, as you pointed out, we try to impact the world around us. We try to make lasting change. And these candles that we give each of our speakers basically support an organization called Bright Endeavors, and their mission is to empower young moms by providing transitional jobs and professional skills training. So this not only helps those moms, but it also supports their kids and ultimately their communities. And this is, excuse me, consistent with our community service focus this year on education. So thank you once again for joining us here. You're welcome to stay on for as long as you want. I know you have other meetings to get to.
Well, thank you, Eric and Don. Thanks for everyone for sticking around, and good luck on the rest of the meeting.
Oh, you bet. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Fritz.
Thanks.
I want to move on to the next part of the program. And if Shayi, if you don't mind waiting a few more minutes, we have another guest on that we need to get to here. I swear we will get to your thought of the day as soon as we can. But I do want to move to the service spotlight portion of our program. And basically every week we try to feature for our members and our guests some of the projects that we're working on locally and internationally. And one of the programs that we've worked on, one of the service projects we've worked on for many years now is the Off to College Trunk Party, working together with the Jesse White Foundation. I am going to introduce Sarah Buck, our community service chair, who's going to introduce our guest today to talk about the service spotlight. And I just want to say that there will be some folks that will stick around from the Jesse White Foundation after the end of the meeting to answer any questions we have there. So Sarah, could you introduce our special guest today from the Jesse White Foundation? Are you on, Sarah? You may be on mute. Sarah, are you on? Well, I am not hearing Sarah. I will do the introduction, although oh. Hello, Mrs. Secretary White. Welcome. I see you up on the screen.
Glad to be on board.
Excellent. So of course, you're somebody who doesn't need an introduction because everybody knows who you are. Certainly anybody who has a driver's license knows who you are, and anybody who's been part of the Rotary Club of Chicago for more than the last 5 minutes knows who you are. But obviously you have an incredible background going back to serving in the military, starting the Jesse White Tumblers, doing so much for our community. And then, of course, the Jesse White Foundation, being Secretary of State for so many years, being frankly above the fray of some of the craziness of Illinois politics. So I could go on, but I'll give the floor to you so that you can tell us a little bit about the Jesse White Foundation and about the project that we work with you on, the Off to College Trunk Party. The floor is yours, Secretary White.
Eric, nice to meet you. As was indicated, my name is Jesse White, and I'm in your purse if you are a woman. I'm in your wallet if you are a man. And thanks to you, I've had a great pleasure of serving as a Secretary of State for the past 21.5 years. My mission is to make sure that we provide the people of this wonderful state with the documents that they need in order to get from point A to point B. In my other life, I've been a coach and founder of the Jesse White Tumbler team for exactly 60 years. And we've had over 1,500 young people a year to participate in our program. And our mission is to help young people to grow tall and straight, keep them out of harm's way, and give them an opportunity to live a longer and productive life. And another part of my program is a trunk party. We have a young lady by the name of Yvonne Jones, and Yvonne is director of the Jesse White Scholars. She takes young people all over the country, allowing them an opportunity to visit the various institutions of learning. And then those individuals who are part of the Jesse White Tumbler team who need to be tutored, she's involved with that program as well. And so every July, we set aside time to provide young people who graduated from high school, who are going on to college, with the school supplies they wish to need and deserve. And every year we're right around 500 trunks that we distribute to these young people. And now we serve as a safety net, the light at the end of the tunnel for these young people, and we're just glad to be on board. You have some wonderful people from the Rotary Club who've been involved with us for the 6 years that we've been involved. You have Mr. Walt and Jody Stewicki. Of course, Eric is deeply involved, Eric Kemple, Pat and Jack Rantilla, Osei David Andrews, Q Millsap, Demetrius Francois, and Alita Williams, John Wilhelm, and a host of individuals who make up a part of the wonderful Rotary Club here in Chicago. This year, we were able to provide 500 young people with the supplies they basically need in order to go off to college and be prepared for that wonderful experience. And we did something that was a little different. In the past, we would bring these young people into the Jesse White Foundation, which is at 412 West Chicago Avenue, and we would have a complete program for the young people, along with speakers and the Jesse White Tumbling team. The list goes on and on. This year, because of the virus, we decided that we would do it a different way. We allowed individuals to remain in their car, show us the document that we've given them, and then we will put in that car the supplies they wish need and deserve. It was a resounding success, and I just want a Rotary to understand that we deeply appreciate their giving and caring spirit and for their involvement in this wonderful program.
Thank you so much, Secretary White, and thank you for those kind words. We really appreciate that. It's good to know that our work is going to a valuable cause, and we certainly look forward to continuing to support this program in the years ahead. Whatever form it takes under whatever pandemic, we will be there to continue to support the kids in this endeavor.
Yeah, we had this is our 7th year, I think. But we've been around with the Jesse White Tumbling team for exactly 60 years, and we've traveled all over the world. And our mission number one is to make sure that these young people understand that there's this big, wide, wonderful world out there. We teach them to love their fellow man and woman and never, ever dislike anyone because of race, creed, or color. We want them to be leafless, smokeless, and pipeless. The only time they can practice pharmacy is after they've earned a white coat. I think you know what I'm talking about.
Like it.
And so the bottom line is this: we've saved a lot of young people. We have 8 units. We do about 1,500 shows a year. We've traveled all over the world, giving these young people an opportunity to see that there's this big, wide, wonderful world out there, and we want them to be prepared to fit into it properly.
Thank you so much. I think those are words to live by, and thank you for the great work that you guys are doing. Everybody, please give a nice virtual round of applause for Secretary White. I believe Yvonne is going to stick around until after the meeting, so that way if folks have further questions about the foundation and this project, they can stick around and get them answered. And of course, Secretary White, you're welcome to stick around as long as you like for a meeting, although I know you're a busy man.
Thank you very much, Eric.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So I now want to move us back to the long delayed thought for the day and introduce one of our newest members who's already been very active in participating in our volunteer activities, a variety of different volunteer activities. And she also works for Chase Bank. I'd like to give the floor to Shea Ogundeji. Shea, the floor is yours.
That was a great pronunciation of my name. Thank you.
Well, I only asked you about 10 times in the past, so I better get it right by now.
Yeah, hi, everyone. So my thought of the day is centered around kindness and love. Living in the modern world filled with events that generate fear can lead to hostility, anger, and separation. And this is especially true this year in 2020, where we face a pandemic, isolation, financial challenges, looting, and rioting. And this has led to even more anger, separation, and isolation. And I believe the antidote to this is kindness. love, and the understanding that we're all connected. And this understanding can motivate us to make decisions that benefit all beings, not just humans, but all other beings that share this world with us. One of my favorite authors is called Teal Swan. And I'll read a poem that she wrote from one of her books that I'm reading right now. And it's Promise Me Now. Promise me now, promise me always, that even as they strike you down with hatred and violence, even as they dismember and destroy you, that no man can ever be your enemy. The only thing worth having is love. Unconditional, invincible, limitless love. And one day when you face this world, unburdened by the tyranny of fear and hate and greed, your fellow man will behold you across 1,000 cycles of living and dying in full bloom. Your joy will be eternal. No sun or moon that ever rises will ever see it fade. I know it can be hard for us to practice kindness and love, especially when you're trying to look out for yourself. But the understanding that we're all connected and we're all one helps me sometimes. It's still hard. So that was my message for today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shay. I think that's a great message for today. Very timely, and I think it is that very sentiment that draws a lot of us into Rotary, because we feel like Rotary gives us a tool to be kinder and more loving to our fellow human beings, and counteract a lot of the hatred out there with kindness and love. But it's always good to sit back and remember that. So thank you very much. Speaking of the great things that we do as Rotarians, and kindness and love and helping our fellow humans, I want to move to another segment here, a somewhat new segment that I'd like to put into our programs, and that's member accomplishments. And by the way, for those who have accomplishments, whether it's job announcements, great things going on with your family, some positivity, please do share those with me in advance. But there are a couple things I want to share here with you today. One is a member accomplishment that goes as an accomplishment for all of us here today, and in fact, all 1.2 million Rotarians in 200 countries around the world. And that's the announcement today that polio is being declared free of the wild polio virus. There's an article that Cam will share in the chat box. Actually, there's a lot of articles out there today. You'll see Rotary International mentioned a lot of times, a lot of photos of people in Rotary International shirts vaccinating children around the world. But that's a huge announcement. It's something that you all need to be proud of, because you are all part of that in some way or another, making that happen. Making an entire continent free of a terrible disease, especially a continent the size of Africa, is pretty darn impressive. So that is an accomplishment of all of our members to be very proud of. A little bit closer to home, we also have some great accomplishments. Nellie Vasquez-Roland, head of the Safe Haven, is having a groundbreaking ceremony for veterans apartments in Hobart, Indiana, on Thursday, August 27th. So this is a huge deal, helping veterans, helping the homeless. So anyone is welcome to attend that. I think we can share that information as well. That's in Hobart, Indiana, Thursday, August 27th from 10 to 11 a.m. Anybody is welcome to go out there and show Nellie your support. Okay, so from that, I would like to go on to introducing our guests. And I always try to do this in the most, well, it's a kind of organized chaos, I suppose, but I will do my best. And I know sometimes some folks are on and then they might have already jumped off. So I would just ask you to very briefly tell us your name. If you're a Rotarian, tell us the club you're with. And if you want to tell us what you do for a living, that's good as well. So the first person on my list here is Joe Kukul. I may be pronouncing your name wrong, but if you can unmute yourself and introduce yourself, that would be great.
Yeah, hello. Actually, my name is Jean Terrio. I am Joe's husband. She was not able to attend, but as I asked in the question, we do own a property in Chicago. We visit the property as often as we can. We love the city and do plan to spend a portion of our retirement there. So we bought the property in anticipation of that. She has attended your meeting in person a time or two when she's been in Chicago, and watches your programs because she thinks that as being the first Rotary Club #1, you have a lot of very interesting speakers. So thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Gene. I'm glad you're on, and glad Joe was on and has attended some of our meetings. I'm sure in reality, the real draw for retiring in Chicago was, of course, so that you could attend our meetings on a regular basis.
I'm sure she plans to.
Fantastic. Well, we look forward to it. Next person, Patrick Bourbon. Are you still on? Not hearing anything. I will move to Tony Kambich. Kambich, are you still on? How about Valdemar, our old friend? Are you still on?
Yes, I hope that you can hear me.
Yes.
President Eric, as always, thank you very much for the invitation. It's a highlight of the day because it's evening already here in Warsaw, and you always make my day, all of you, of course, if it's Tuesday. And I'm a member of Rotary Club in Witten, Germany, but traveling between my two offices. One is in Warsaw, Poland, and one in Düsseldorf. So I'm very glad that I can travel after the lockdown we had in Germany and in Poland for many weeks. And I hope that the flights to Chicago will be open and I can visit your meeting in person. Thank you very much. Take care and all the best.
Thank you, Valdemar. Always good to see you. And I do have one request for you. If you're going to stick around to the end of the meeting, would you be able to recite the four-way test for us at the end? Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So next guest, Daniel Slivka. Are you still on? Okay. I'm not hearing Daniel. Mark Knight from Lakeview. Are you still on? Maybe not. Irv, I thought I saw you on. Would you like to introduce yourself? Well, perhaps Irv has dropped off as well. Jason Conger or Conger? Okay. And then Lucy Groby. Lucy, are you on? Are there any other guests or visiting Rotarians that I may have missed?
Eric, I just wanted to mention Irv was on, but he's on mute.
Oh, you're right. I do see Irv there. Irv, are you able to unmute yourself?
Yeah, I just unmuted.
There you go.
Okay. I'll just say hello to everyone again. I love attending your meetings. Ruth is here with me, my wife Ruth. She's a lifetime honorary member of Chicago Rotary 1. And I will just tell you that I continue to work on the Paul Harris House and the Paul Harris Memorial. And I really want to thank Rotary 1 for all their support. Every time I go out there, I have to look at my granite benches that are engraved with Chicago Rotary 1. And I look at Paul Harris's gravesite, Sylvester Shealy's gravesite, your great first president. And it's just wonderful to be with you all the time. Hello, Marshall Schmidt.
Hi, Marshall.
Are there any other guests that I may have missed? Yvonne, actually, even though I know you're going to stick around until the end, but for those who don't stick around, please introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. First of all, I just wanted to say thank you to Eric and all of the Rotarians. I know Jesse White has already made the introduction regarding our most recent trunk party event, which was this year entitled Grab and Go, because that's basically what it was, a grab and go. But I just wanted to say to all of the Rotarians, this year in particular, you guys truly exemplified your motto of service above self. We could not have done this year's event without your unwavering support from John Wellham, Alita Williams, Jody and Walter Stewicki, the Rantillas from Chicago O'Hare Rotary, Quintus Millsaps from the South Suburbs, Dimitri Francois, the list goes on and on. You guys were incredible this year, more so than any year. Every year you've been great, but this year, because of this pandemic, we would not have been able to do this without Rotary. So I just want to say that once again. I can't say it enough because behind the scenes, no one really knows what it took to make this year's event happen. This year was truly a challenge, but you guys rose to that challenge. So I just want to say thank you so much. And Eric, once again, you know, all the Rotarians who may not be on this session, please extend our sincere thank you to all of them.
I will do that. And we'll include an announcement in our next newsletter echoing your words, Yvonne.
Okay,
I really appreciate that. And I think it's important for our members to hear that as well, right? Because that's what sort of drives people to know that they're actually making a difference and having an impact. So that's really good to hear it, right? Directly from you and directly from the secretary. So I appreciate you guys being on.
Well, if you guys ever need an outsider to be a big cheerleader, you have one.
Okay, we're going to take you up on that offer. Very good, very good. Thank you. So again, for folks who want to ask more about the Jesse White Foundation and the Trunk Party, please stick around to the end. So now I'd like to move on to some announcements. That's the next segment here, and we have a couple of interesting things. The first item relates to our very own past president, David Templin. I know many of you know him already, of course. Some of you have not met him yet, especially for those who are new members. Past president of our club, past district governor, part of the Paul and Jean Harris Home Foundation, part of many other activities here in the district. And he has thrown his hat in the ring to be one of the RI directors for 2022 through 2024. And part of the process, as I have learned, is that his very own club, as we are his club, needs to support that nomination with a letter that I signed that basically says that we had a vote to support his nomination. I personally support that nomination and would plan to sign that letter. Not only because David is well accomplished in the world of Rotary and a great guy, but also because I think it's always helpful to have yet another conduit from our club and from our district to Rotary International. So with that, we are going to conduct a vote electronically. And I believe, Shelby, you're going to set us up for that. And I just want to say that if you are not a member of our club, please do not vote. You have to be a member of the Rotary Club of Chicago to vote in support of David Templin for nominating him for an RI director. So Shelby, can you set us up with the poll?
Yes, I'm going to launch the poll. You'll see it pop up on your screen. Go ahead and select one of the options. If for some reason you do not see the poll pop up, you can go ahead and chat your answer in the chat box, and we will record it, and we'll give everyone a few minutes to reply, and then I will share the results on the screen. So I'm going to launch it right now. You should see it up on your screen. And for those of you who don't see it, we have, as a member of Rotary One, I suggest past Rotary One President and past District 6450, Governor David Templin be nominated to serve as Rotary International Director during 2022 to 2024. If you could just chat yes, no, or abstain, we will record your answer.
And we'll just give you a few minutes there. If anybody has any questions for Governor Templin, he is on our call today, so feel free to ask those questions.
And it looks like we've got everyone, we've got about 68% who voted, and it doesn't look like any votes are coming in. So I believe we are probably at all of our members being voted. So I'm going to end the poll and share the results.
Okay, that sounds good. All right. Well, those look pretty promising, David. I hope you're happy with that result.
Very.
Very good.
I think it was probably Ruth that abstained, but I'm not positive.
Very good. Well, congratulations, David.
Thank
We're
you.
happy to support you in this nomination. I will sign that letter and get it to you in the next 24 hours.
Thanks for the support.
You bet, David. Thank you. Okay, so we have a couple of other great announcements for what's going on here this week and what has gone on. I do want to thank our volunteers from Friday events, both the MC School event, which is part of a local global grant that we're supporting here in the city of Chicago to help with conflict resolution here in the city with our youth, and then also delivering meals to the Maple Point seniors. Thanks for all who participated in that. It is, we do notice that, and I really do appreciate it. That's very important to me. I also want to thank folks who contributed to the disaster in Beirut. We are up to about $12,800 now, and we're still accepting those donations. Feel free to email the office at office@rotary1.club. And we will certainly continue to accept donations to help the folks in Beirut. There are also a lot of other opportunities here for you to contribute, either with your own service, your own labor, or monetarily. So first of all, we have a community cleanup coming on Saturday, August 29th. That's this Saturday from 9:30 a.m. to 12 p.m. There is a link for that in the gyrator. It's also on the calendar, and I know that Cam will put it into the chat box here as well. This is basically organized by the Chicago City Treasurer's Office, and the location will be on the west side, starting at St. Michael Missionary Baptist Church at 4106 West Monroe. I'm really hoping to see a good turnout there. I've already had a lot of positive feedback from folks who are interested in getting engaged. As if there wasn't a good time previously, this is a really important time to go and show your support for your neighbors here in the city of Chicago. And people really appreciate it when you show up to deal with the daunting task of cleaning up neighborhoods, vacant lots, streets, and so forth. And the more hands we have, the faster work we make. There are also a lot of folks impacted by the derecho, still don't really know how it's pronounced, but the gigantic inland hurricane that swept through the Midwest hit Iowa particularly hard with hurricane and tornado force winds. I know it doesn't make maybe as much press as some other things, but there's a lot of damage there, particularly in Cedar Rapids. And so past district governor and assistant regional Rotary Foundation coordinator, Michelle Bell, is a Rotary contact to deliver supplies or any labor that you want to provide for cleaning debris. And that's information that's been shared in the gyrator. And I see that it's been shared in the chat box as well. There's a lot of specific items they need. Again, the list is on the gyrator, or shoot myself an email or anybody in the office an email, and we can get you that list. And of course, financial contributions are always appreciated and certainly help. We're not going to show the video this time. We'll probably show it again next week, but the Rotary Network continues to grow, continues to expand. This is how you can really take your Rotary membership to the next level on the vocational side, job skills building, networking, finding new jobs, finding employees. Jobs are desperately needed to be posted because we certainly have plenty of Rotarians during this financial crisis, economic crisis, during the pandemic, who are looking for jobs. So let's keep those jobs coming in here. We also want more people engaged with Rotary Means Business. There was a meeting just last week on Thursday. There will be a continuation of those meetings every month. You can sign up through rotarynetwork.org. The website is in the chat box. So we also have a lot of other meetings coming up, and anyone is welcome to participate. First of all, we have committee meetings. This is a great way to get engaged with the club and help support the club and understand what we do, and be part of directing where our person power and financial resources go, both locally and globally. So we have a Job 1 committee meeting, August 27th at 11 a.m. We have an International Service Committee meeting, also August 27th in the evening at 5:30 p.m. and a Community Service Committee meeting on September 3rd at 12 p.m. All of these are on the calendar. You can sign up on the calendar, or feel free to send the office an email, and we'll get you that Zoom information and you can participate. You don't have to be a member of the committee to sit in and be part of the conversation. We also have our next board meeting, our monthly board meeting, on the first Tuesday of the month on September 1st at 4 p.m. Again, you can, if you're a member of the club, please feel free to show up if you want to see how board business is conducted. I guarantee you it's exciting and thrilling. It'll be the most exciting thing you do that Tuesday. The only thing you can't do is vote, but you can certainly see what we do and be part of the conversation. We have, of course, our usual slate of fantastic meetings coming up here in the near future. I do want to point out that we have, for the first time since the beginning of March, we actually have a Friday roundtable coming up at the Union League Club, Friday, August 28th at noon. You can find that on our calendar. Again, you can sign up there. I'd appreciate if you did sign up first, just because it's just logistically a little bit more challenging than usual in terms of making sure that we have the proper space allocated, but the club is open. I am actually sitting in the club right now in the business center. So I guess technically this is the return of Rotary to the Union League Club, because that is where I'm at right now. I have personally checked out the rendezvous. There are a lot of tables in there. They also allow for people to take their food to other parts of the club. And it is not very crowded, so I think we can do pretty well on the social distancing side of things. We also have an after work meeting coming up on September 1st. My apologies, we don't have the location set yet. We are working on sorting out the logistics there, but it'll be somewhere in the core of Chicago. And it'll be something interesting and fun and outdoors, so that we can properly socially, or should I say physically, distance. And then we have on Tuesday, September 28th, we have the inaugural program for our Sister Cities series. And that is going to be a fantastic event. One of our sister cities here for the city of Chicago is Vilnius, Lithuania. And we have with us that day the mayor of Vilnius. And Roland, are you still on? Because I may ask you to pronounce the mayor's name, because I am sure I am going to do a terrible job of it. If you're on, would you like to say the mayor's name for me? You might be on mute.
Sure.
Roland, I hear you. Can you pronounce the mayor of Vilnius's name? It's up on the screen. Well, I'm not able to hear Roland. So I'm going to go with Remigius Shimasius. But we will make sure that we have that pronunciation correct by the time we get to September 8th. But what's also exciting about this particular program is that we have the Lithuanian Consul General to Chicago doing the introduction of the mayor. We also have Chicago Sister Cities International as a co-sponsor of that program, and they'll be on to tell us a little bit about what they do and the growing partnership that they have with our club. We already have several things that we're doing together, and so it'll be interesting to hear for all of you to hear about that. We also will have a lot of guests from Rotary Club that we actually helped sponsor in Vilnius, Lithuania, the Rotary Club, Lithuanian Rotary Club of Chicago. So it's going to be a really, really great meeting, and I encourage everybody to try to attend that meeting. And so with that, and assuming that I haven't missed any announcements, I want to bring us to the four-way test, and I'd like to ask our friend Valdemar to unmute himself and please recite the four-way test, which is on the screen in front of you.
Yes, President Eric, I would like to suggest, because we already heard this four-way test from Assessor Fritz Kaegi in English, maybe if you don't mind, I would do it in German.
Please, bitte.
The four-way test. Bei allem, was wir denken, sagen oder tun, sollten wir uns fragen: Erstens, ist es wahr? Zweitens, ist es fair für alle Beteiligten? Drittens, wird es Freundschaft und guten Willen fördern? Und viertens, wird es dem Wohl aller Beteiligten dienen? That's it.
That sounds wonderful. I think we should always do it in German moving forward. We'll try to remember that.
I can try it also in Polish the next time, so it's no problem. Maybe in Russian.
There you go. All right, a different language every time. So you have to keep coming to our meetings, Valdemar. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. So a reminder for those of you who want to stick around and chat with Yvonne and learn more about the Jesse White Foundation, please do that. Otherwise, with that, meeting adjourned.